I'm switching gears and I'm going to micro. So in that question on the micro exam the other day, it was dealing with long run competition, or perfectly competitive, I should say. And again, I know you're not graphing, but you have to understand the graphs to be able to understand what's going on. So if you're looking at a side by side, perfectly competitive, we're dealing with the market, which is just still regular old supply and demand. I can't even spell abbreviating market. And then you're dealing with a firm, and again, it doesn't really matter what side they're on as long as you know which is which. The price in perfect competition is dictated by the market. That's the whole point of this thing, is that in a perfectly competitive situation, no singular firm has enough market power to influence price at all. So they're a price taker, and the market is where it's coming from. So you have to sort of start there. Then you're dealing with the costs of the firm. So now they know how much they have to, or they have the ability to charge, and they need to know how much things cost them. So you need marginal cost. And remember that you get your profit maximizing point from where price equals marginal cost. What also applies is where price is equal to marginal revenue. But remember that the only place that this one applies is in your perfect competition. And this is going to apply to all market types. So monopoly, monopolistic competitor, and if the oligopoly, if we were to graph it. So that's the first thing, right? That's where you're getting your price and your quantity from. And then if you're in long run equilibrium, it means that you're breaking even. All right. And that doesn't matter whether you're talking monopoly or monopolistic competitor, perfect competition. If you're in long run equilibrium, you're breaking even because price is equal to average total cost. Now, a couple things can happen that can represent a question you might get. More often than not, they start the change in the market. Let's say there's an increase in demand for this particular product. So you see in the marketplace, the quantity increases, the price increases, and then that's also going to alter the quantity for the individual firm. Not only that, but it's going to create profit for the individual firm, right? And that's awesome, except it's not sustainable, which is why this is a short run situation, because as this occurs and you now have profit, new firms are going to enter into the industry. And little by little, as the market supply increases, it's going to drag that price down. And so what really happens is you end up with a whole new supply curve that will end up crossing whatever this new demand is, and this could be supply 3, I don't know, at the same price that you started at. So what happens is that the quantity in the market increases because both market demand and supply increased, but the price in the market is returning to the original long run price. All that profit has disappeared, and your individual firm is now back to producing at its original quantity. So everything goes back to normal except for the market quantity. That's one option. The other thing that can occur is instead of seeing the change occurring in the market, you see the change occurring in the firm first. And this is that practice test that you did the other day. Here, it gets, I don't know, in my opinion, a little bit more complicated, but it's not much different in terms of what you're graphing. And even that's a lie. It's different. What am I talking about? All right, so here's your quantity. Here's your price dictated. The starting point is the same. You've got your long run equilibrium and our quantity and our prices. But let's go the opposite of what actually happened in that question the other day, where you were looking at prices, not prices, you were looking at costs falling. But let's say instead costs rise for some reason for this individual firm. I don't know what the reason could be. They give their employees a wage raise because they're doing such a great job, something like that. What ends up happening is because of this increase in prices, oh no, increase in costs, oh my brain, you end up with a new lower quantity, and the firm is now experiencing a loss of some sort. Okay. And let's say for whatever reason, other workers are now demanding higher wages because this firm did it. So why isn't their firm do it? Blah, blah, blah. And now everybody's firm is experiencing these higher wages. And so what would happen in that scenario would be that your overall supply would decrease. It would create a new long run price. Okay. The market quantity would actually fall, and each individual firm would be producing slightly more than they were before, but less than they were initially. And so the end result here is that market quantity, in this case, decreases, firm quantity decreases, price has actually increased. Okay. So when the change starts in the firm, you end up with a whole new set of equilibria. When the change happens in the market first, you end up with everything going back to normal except for the market quantity.